And you're locked into another episode of the Leo podcast. My name is Josh, making that intersection between faith and animation and delivering those redundant analogies you've come to know and love. And I am very excited today because I have a guest co-host with me. Then kind of lining a few people up over the last few months in Rebecca's absence. And this is no stranger to our podcast. She's guested on a couple of our animated roundtables and has also been featured on one of her own episodes. So please welcome Ian Chaffin to the podcast. Liz, thank you so much for being with me today.
I'm glad to be with you. It's exciting.
And it's been a while. I think the last time you were with us was back in November with our third annual animated roundtable.
Yeah, it's been quite a while.
Now, for those who may not know you, again, you're an author and you're also a full-time teacher, last I heard, correct?
Yeah, I teach ninth grade English, and it's really crazy because it's in a high school instead of off in a junior high. So you have baby little ninth graders, 14, 15-year-olds, mixed in with the 10th, 11th, and 12th graders. So wow. 17, 18-year-olds are like right around the corner.
But I know that we came here to get on a particular anime movie. But before we get on to that, what has been from this anime season, this current season, what have been a few of your favorites that you have been watching?
I haven't watched a lot of anime. I've been saving my money, so I haven't been getting on Crunchyroll or anything. I will say, though, of course, the movie that we're going to talk about today, definitely a win.
Okay. Awesome.
And also, I've watched the first 2 episodes of Cells at Work. I know that's not the current thing, but it is, I don't know. It's funny. It doesn't have too much blood. I hope I'm not like jinxing myself by saying this, but it's pretty cool.
Awesome. One anime that I think is right up your alley, and Rebecca and I have enjoyed because it's just so wholesome, is Anne Shirley. It's the anime retelling of the Anne of Green Gables.
I remember seeing the commercial for that. Yeah.
The OP, great. The ending, great. And I think they're covering the first 3 books in the series.
Nice.
So, as you have previously said, this anime movie that we are talking about is a win, and I would certainly agree on that. So, Liz, what are we going to be talking about today?
We're going to be talking about Josie, the tiger, and the fish.
And this came out in 2020, so around the pandemic era. For those who may not know what this is, it is available on Crunchyroll. Can you give us a bit of a synopsis?
Oh, I'll try without spoiling anything. So this guy, Suneo, he needs to get money because he's going to study abroad. And he, by chance, meets this elderly woman and her grandchild. Her grandchild is near his age. And she's Kumiko, but she likes to go by Josie. And it's just a story about how they grow stronger together. And how through so many different twists and turns that their relationship just becomes even better. Like, I keep doing this with my hands.
Oh, no, it's fine.
Putting my fingers together. But that's pretty much how it is. Like, they're 2 individuals, and it's just how their lives start intertwining and become one. And it's so beautiful. Oh, the artwork.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Even the English cast, I watched it in English, and I love how they picked every single voice actor. It's just on point for all of them.
It really does fit well because the first time that we watched it in sub, and then last time we watched it in English. And sometimes the English it hits, sometimes it misses. But again, perfectly cast for all these characters.
Yeah. In fact, like the grandma, I think she's my favorite voice in there. Just because it's like she has just the right amount of sassy and caring for her granddaughter at the same time. So I love it.
And this anime has themes of light sacrifice, again, bettering one another through their own struggles and their own hurt as well. because Josie is in a wheelchair, so she's not mobile. She has to depend on her grandmother to take her out, which her grandmother is very protective. So Josie doesn't really get to see the outside world that much.
Yeah, and of course, like one mistake is how she and Tsuneo meet because he saves her from falling, and of course at the beginning he's just like, "Oh hey, are you okay?" And Josie is like, "I hate your guts." And of course, I love how throughout the story you get to see the struggles that a person in a wheelchair can have, especially in places like Japan. I know also I've been to Europe before, just a few places, and a lot of those old buildings are so beautiful, but they're not designed for wheelchairs. And I think America, and of course I could be biased because I live here, I think we've done a pretty good job about making a lot of places wheelchair accessible. But I know in Japan, like in the cities, it might be even better. But even with wheelchair accessibility, you still have the fact that there's tons of people walking everywhere, and not everyone is going to see you because they're just so zoned into their own lives. Which, whether you're in a wheelchair or not, that can happen. Like someone just bump into you, or someone ignores you when you're trying to ask for help and all that. And watching Josie go through those struggles, but definitely like not being able to do what you want, and people not necessarily like being mean, even though that does happen in the book, in the movie, but people just not paying attention enough when you're asking for help. And so you're like, oh, I guess I'm going to have to do this alone or just quit.
From what the movie portrays, Josie with her wheelchair is seen as an inconvenience. When she's like at the train station, and a guy bumps into her. She's at the ticket register, and she's trying to like buy her ticket pass to get on the train, and she's struggling like to get out of the way to like reach out to get it. And she refers to all these people as tigers. Like what does she mean by like tigers? Is that the hurt that she feels? Is that the antagonists that are like against her as society because she's in a wheelchair? Nobody wants to help her. People make excuses not to apologize because she is in a wheelchair when they bump into her.
I think it's all of those. It's definitely something she picked up from her grandmother. And, of course, tigers are seen as these big, strong creatures. And for me, I love seeing tigers. I think they're very majestic. I would never want to meet one in the wild. But for Josie, a tiger represents the antagonist. It represents all of her fear. It represents people being cruel to her and all that. Because right from the beginning, we see that her grandmother is like, we're taking a walk at night, so there's less people.
Right.
And she says something along the lines of, this world is just filled with just mean people, tigers. And she even calls them tigers. And then later on, of course, we see Josie call them tigers too, when she's about to give up on boarding the train, because it's a new experience for her, but absolutely no one is helping. And so it's that. And I think it's a way for her to protect herself too. If they're tigers and they're the bad guys, then she has a way, kind of like an out. Mm-hmm. And of course, it's really hard when you've just been surrounded by that, because who knows how long her grandmother is taking care of her. And her grandmother, I feel like, is a good character, is a good person. It's just, she's protected Josie for so much, for so long, that her and Josie are like, the world is evil, the bad, I don't want to go out in it. And so it's just like, when everything is against you, why fight it? How about just stay away and block yourself off from it?
That's how she sees Tsuneo as at first is a tiger, because he even though he saved her from falling, when she came down off the hill of the wheelchair because somebody bumped into her, but that's because as she said, her grandmother said, everybody, out there, they're tired. Sorry, are they out there? They're tigers. They're not going to have concern for you. It kind of reminded me of Quasimodo and Frodo's relationship a bit, because he kept him up in the bell tower, telling that everybody, is cruel and wicked out there. So that was a kind of interesting comparison between the two. But from Josie's grandmother, she's inflicted all those beliefs onto Josie, and that's why she spends most of the time in her room, doing her artwork, because she's built this sense of control into her imagination, into her creativity, to protect herself from all the disappointment and the danger that she believes all the world is on the outside.
It's interesting that you mentioned Quasimodo and
Frodo, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, sorry. Not Frodo. One night, I know
like
Frollo. Yeah, Frollo. Not
the bad guy.
Yeah. Well, we've already talked about Lord of the Rings on another episode. You can go back and listen to it.
No, you're good. It's funny that you mentioned that, though, because I watched this film like 3 times. Because one, I just wanted to see it and see like the world unfold. And then I'm like, oh, this is so good. I have to share it with a friend. So the second time I watched it with a friend of mine. And at the end, we were talking about it. And she was like, yeah, her house just reminded me of like Rapunzel's tower. Because, of course, her grandmother doesn't want her to go out. And she's kind of stuck in there. And if you go with like Disney's version of Rapunzel, you have Josie, who also does art for a release, just a relief and release of her energy and stuff like that. And so I don't think her grandmother is on that level of, wahaha, I'm actually evil villain. It's more of a, I need to protect my one and only grandchild. But definitely like, there's that sense of let's lock ourselves away from the world. And it is interesting that this movie came out in 2020. Not that they were planning on it, of course,
yeah.
but like most all of us were stuck at home or supposed to be that way because we didn't know about XYZ. So it's just like whether you're doing it to yourself or something else is doing it to you, just being blocked off from the world. You might be physically safe, but you're definitely not going to be like emotionally and spiritually okay, because it's just, everything's breaking down in your mind and stuff like that. Heck, I can't even stay at home for like 3 days straight on Christmas break or anything like that, because I'm like, okay, I have to see people who aren't my dogs.
Yeah. Yeah, like the worst is when like I've had the flu or I've been bettering because I had like COVID once, and the first time you get it, awful. And I did the social distancing for the recommended period of days, and I told Rebecca, I'm like, you've gone to work all this week. I haven't seen anybody but you. I love you, but I need to see what's out there. Just one day.
Just one day. Insert song.
Out there, strolling by the sand.
When we're looking at Josie's sense of control and her imagination to protect her, does that... would you say that's an accurate representation for someone who it has been hurt deeply, whether it's through trauma or whatever? And is imagination, or in terms of being an author, is fantasy sometimes a survival tool or an escaping tool?
Oh yeah, like, we see this a lot in different things. It's just that's the way for her to escape, for her to create her own world. For her to be like, if I had any say in it, this is what I would want. I definitely do that myself. My writing has become less of an escape and more of a way to honor God and the gift He gave me. But I do sometimes feel that like I am stressed. I just want to sit, and I may not even write on the story I have currently. current WIP. But I'm definitely like, if I haven't written in a while, I start to get agitated. And it's a weird thing I've noticed about myself, but when I start writing and get all that creative, like, build up out, I just feel so much better. Even if I've had a horrible day, I'm like, oh, this is awesome. And so it's really interesting because I do go outside. I do interact with people and all that. It's kind of have a different life than Josie has, but definitely I so understand her when it comes to my art, because I'm like, I have to just like get it out. And I love how her interaction with her art changes throughout the story. Don't want to give too much away, but I just love how she makes it into something that she can use, not as a defense, but as a way of saying, I'm making my own life. Let's go for it.
And talking about her art, from what we see in the film, she's mostly drawing like ocean scenes or the scenes of the aquatic, which seems like a match made in heaven between her and Sunio, being a marine biology student. And she has all this fantasy, but because she's been trapped somewhat inside her own home, it's kind of void of experience. So the first time she kind of escapes, and again, apologies for any spoilers for those of you who have not seen it, but going to try not to give too much. For the first time she escapes out of the house, she's trying to go to the ocean. And the reason being is we assume they're not talked about much except for like one little sentence during the scene, but we assume that her parents are deceased or not in the picture, which is why her grandmother is taking care of her. And she makes it all the way there with Sunio's help, because he finds her, at the railroad crossing and takes her to the ocean. And she's trying to get her wheelchair through the sand. And just that line, like, I kind of got a bit choked up a bit, because she wants to have that experience so badly. She's dragging herself across the sandy beach in order to see if the ocean water really tastes salty or not, because of the conversation she had with her dad. But her dad died before he ever told her like the true answer. It's a beautiful picture. Both of them kind of like sharing the same experience together. What it means for Josie, what it means for Sunio. I just love that first true interaction of like joy and happiness between the two.
Oh, yeah. For me, it was like when she does get to that ocean and she's like, it's salty, I'm like, oh. And, she starts like flinging her arm out. And of course, he's like trying to hold her. He's like, oh, don't fall. It looks like they're dancing to me. And I love that, because it's just like, that is so like, for one, he helps her, because he could have been like, you're just being a brat, I'll just watch you. Or it's like, well, she's a strong, independent woman, let her do what she needs to, but I love how, even though Josie tends to like annoy him so much so that he's like complaining to his friends. He's like, I just need to quit this job, da da da. Even through all of that, he's still willing to like, do the most random things for her, which you see before the scene, but also he's willing to like just pick her up and help her the rest of the way. And of course, for me, being a Christian, that just reminds me of God, of Jesus. Like, I don't know how many times I've just been so mean and rude to him and just not thinking like, how would Jesus feel about this? Does he really want me to do this? Even if it's something small. And then he'll, even like when I'm really, especially when I'm really going the way he wants me to go, like, I need to do this. He'll just pick me up and just take me the rest of the way. Yeah. And I just love it. It's one of my favorite scenes, and I'm glad that they reference back to it in the movie as well. They show it again, and I'm like, oh, so beautiful.
Now, I know you had a few points that you wanted to hit just so that, I don't overtake it with all my points.
Okay, so this is something that I like to do with my stories is to pick character names that one go with the character, but two have a meaning behind it. So like in Pride, Lavanya means beautiful. Part of her pride is her vanity with her beauty because she is beautiful. And so I looked up some of the characters' names and I thought they were really cool. So Suneo, if you take the kanji, it means like constant stream, like a steady stream, which probably hits on the fact that he loves the ocean, but he consistently goes back to Josie and all that. And also like part of his name means like husband or man, so like an average guy. So I just thought that was neat. Like he's based on his character, he's just a kid. Or I say kid, he's a 20-year-old who wants to like do something really cool with his life because he has this dream. And no matter if he's working or if he's with Josie and working or whatever, he consistently goes to where he needs to go. And of course, throughout the story, stuff happens and he kind of loses his way. But for the most part, he's a constant stream. Josie's actual name, Kumiko, means beautiful child. And so I thought that was neat that her parents named her beautiful child. And who knows if she couldn't walk when she was born or couldn't walk later because of an accident. So, but Josie itself comes from, and it kind of hits like one of my other things, it kind of hits on Francois Sagan, who is an author, a real author too. I looked her up. But Josie is one of her characters, and it's a French name, and it comes from Hebrew, and it means God will add or a Jehovah increases. So usually referring to a child like, oh, God will add a child, which that's a big, huge blessing in the Hebrew Bible. So Josie is something along those lines of like, God will add or increase. And what happens to her? She gets a caretaker, which she calls Suneo, which I love that. And then just for funsies, the cat's name is Yukichi, which means lucky or fortunate child, which I just think that's funny because he's a stray and you're like, what are you doing, right, cat? Just the names are like, I love them. So whoever came up with the names, like the original author, very good.
That's great. Now, Suneo, for his character, Josie, like she only calls him Suneo, I think a couple of times, but she refers to him mostly as caretaker, which I thought was really interesting. Like, well, why don't you call him by like his real name? And
it's interesting because at first it's like kind of like her way of separating her from him. It's like, oh, you're just a caretaker. Because we see some of the social services, interact with her grandmother and with her. One of the men is like, he's really kind. The other one's a butthead, to be nice about it. But, it's just a way for her to create a barrier.
Right.
But then later in the story, it becomes like, oh, caretaker.
Yes.
Like if you're taking care of someone, you are like dedicating your life to them. You're helping them. You're doing so much more than just, oh, it's just my job. So I love how you can kind of hear it in her voice, which goes back to that voice actor being just so good for her. Like, yeah, you're a caretaker. Oh, you're a caretaker. It's just how she says it is totally different. And I love that. And of course, we could link that back to Christ too, because he's our caretaker.
He is. Absolutely. Ultimate healer, ultimate caretaker, provider, all those things. And a little bit later in the film, through an unfortunate event, the roles are kind of reversed for Josie and Suneo. And that type of like dynamic switch I thought was very interesting. Without getting too much away, Suneo gets into a position where he's rendered kind of immobile for a bit, and to see the progress and the progression of trying to get back up and trying to make steps forward because he wants to still be there for Josie, but he knows that he needs her as a quote unquote caretaker, or at least emotional support.
And I love that. I was actually watching it again for a third time, just be like, I want to see all the little details. And it's really interesting because I saw a lot. And through that time with both of them, I realized that their eyes become super dull. It's just like black color. But when she sees like the ocean for the first time and she gets excited, and of course he picks her up and they dance in the waves, her eyes are just so shiny and bright. And you see that a lot when she's discovering new things. And then her eyes become super dull around that time where he becomes immobile. And Suneo's, usually his is, you don't get a like close up of him a lot compared to her, but his eyes are, pretty normal for an anime character, little shinies and all that. But when he does go through that, they dull a lot, and it's just, they become like even darker and like, oh goodness. And of course at the end where things have, it's not just things have come to be, it's both characters work so hard to get where they are at the end. Both of their eyes are just shining bright. And I love that touch. It's just so beautiful. And I love how for Josie, throughout the story, we see people like the librarian Kana, and other people like Suneo himself and all that kind of try to motivate her to do something with her art. It's like, oh, hey, you could do this. And she's like, nope. Again, another barrier, kind of like I am. I've tried to get better at this. I don't want people to read my book, but I kind of do. Yeah. So I don't want them to read it in front of me.
Yeah.
So with Josie, it's just like any thought of someone like seeing her artwork besides like a little kid. It's just, nope. We can't do this. But it takes Suneo's situation. And it takes, not just that though, it takes like other characters being like, hey, you have to help him out. You have to be kind of like his caretaker. They don't say it that way, but that's how I took it. It takes that for her to really go forward and to create something, to create a story of her own with her art, to show him, to one, express herself to him, and two, to motivate him to keep going and to not give up on his dreams, because she's not going to give up on her dreams. Like kind of like what she says in there, I have to face the tiger alone.
Right.
And so she knows that like, even if Suneo isn't around always, she needs to keep going because it's just a part of life. You have to keep going. So I love how even though a horrible situation happened and it takes so much for her to actually be motivated to do something, she actually gets up and she's like, okay, I have to do this, not for myself, but for him. I have to use my art for someone else. And I love that as a creative person. It's one of the reasons why I can keep going, even if no one or a very few people are reading my books right now. I'm like, one day, that my books are gonna find the right person and he or she will be just so glad I wrote them. And I want to be there for that person.
Yeah, and as a creative, to know that your work has like deeply touched or inspired somebody, that alone, I think, would be well worth like all the effort and the time that you put into it.
Oh yeah, especially with books. And you can say this about movies and all that too. It just so long. With books though, unless you are co-authoring it with someone, it's usually just you by yourself. So it's me typing away in my room by myself, and well, not by myself, with the Holy Spirit, or not bad, and it's just like oh yeah, it's definitely a 2-man show, and that's it.
One of the other things that came up Sunio has a ceramic or plastic type of like fish. I forget what it's called, but it had like some type of like special meaning, or it was Josie had the fish.
Yeah, I think it was definitely like he created, and he created it for her, of course. And it's I think it was the fish that he had seen when he was a little kid.
Oh yeah, yes.
I thought that was so cute because he made it for her, and that was before, you know, a lot of the stuff in the movie happened. But he's like, I want her to see, you know, part of my dream and share that with her.
One of the other things about this movie, aside from the artwork, is just the story that it tells about relationship. And how, as we were talking about earlier, this is what I mean. Yeah, it started off rocky. It's not perfect, but I would say this is a good, solid foundation for building a relationship, because as we see in the end, they start to like cultivate that more. They're pushing each other, as we said earlier, to, you know, go towards your dream. Just because we're in a relationship doesn't mean we need to like restrict each other, you know, all the time and just be with one another all the time. You have aspirations that you want to go and do, and I have aspirations that I want to go and do.
Oh, yeah. And I love that about their relationships. I know some people, they're like, well, if I get in a relationship with someone, I'm going to have to give up so much. And you might have to give up some things, but that doesn't mean you can't have a dream with that person.
Right.
Suneo, in the beginning, he's there because he's getting paid to take care of her while her grandmother's out. And that's totally understandable. He's kind of like me, where he doesn't want to give up on the job at the first bit of it because he needs some money. He needs to work for it. And of course, being able to do a good job is just like, he has to do that. But even through all that crazy, he's there, and it's kind of a one-sided relationship because he's doing all this stuff for her, but she's not doing anything for him because of those barriers she put up. But once he is able to break through those barriers, little by little, when they sneak out and they like go around Tokyo and see all these sites that she's never seen and all that, it's just, that's when you start to see her being like, oh, hey, I need to like put some effort into this too. And, you know, and all that. And then also when things get hard, you don't just abandon each other.
Right.
You work together. And even though it takes someone to say, hey, Josie, like, you need to like step up for him. No pun intended, but you need to be there for him, even though it takes someone, because Josie's never been in a relationship, a friendship, or anything.
Well, I mean,
else.
she claimed to be like, you know, popular with the guys because she dated like 5 guys at one point. But again, another barrier. But yeah.
Yeah. It's like, who knows if those guys were real? It might have been from a manga. But yeah, so, or even if she had dated someone, it's just, was it really a deep relationship where you have to sacrifice part of yourself? So, and I love how the movie shows that she's learning all this stuff. It doesn't come naturally to her. But when she realizes like, oh, I have to be there, she puts all of her heart and soul into like just helping him. And I love that. I love how it shows that, you know, you may not have a skill or you may not understand or realize something, but when you do, like, go for it.
Absolutely. So as we're kind of like wrapping things up here, is there any one point that you want to make sure that we covered?
Oh, I made a note of the clothing. So I like, especially since so many artists just put stuff that if you're not paying attention or if it's your first time, you may not catch it. But then when you start like looking at all the little bits, I realized that in the beginning, Josie's outfits are very loose fitting and all that. You know, she's usually around the house anyways. And because she's in a wheelchair and her legs don't work, it's just easier for her to wear dresses and stuff like that. Totally understandable. As she's opening up, she's still wearing dresses and skirts and all that, but her outfits get even more colorful and sometimes they are still loose fitting, but it's just like, it's so different from what you see her first, what you see her in first. And then as, you know, some of the devastating stuff happens, you see that her clothes are starting to get more restrictive. They're very angular, which it goes with the weather as well, because it's starting to become winter during that time. And so, of course, she's going to wear a jacket, but it's a very square, very rectangular jacket, very restrictive. It's not as flowing as other clothing pieces are. And then at the end, you see some of that flowing come back with a little bit of restrictive clothing, but not too much. So it's kind of like, you can see that, like, hey, for her, it's like, I've been wounded by life, but I still had that creativity. I'm still going. So I love that, especially for her, because at one point where she's at Tsuneyo's job, where, you know, he's just introducing her to the swim shop or the dive shop, she sees 3 women come in and they're all dressed in nice clothes. And then she sees, I think her name is Mai, one of the other characters, and she's in shorts. And then, you know, Josie's just looking at her dress being like, wow, like, I just look so lame. I know a lot of girls always feel like that, or, you know, it just might come up one day and be like, ooh, do I really look good? I don't know. So I love how they used her clothing, though, to show, to show how she's comparing herself to other women, but also to show, like, her emotional progression throughout the story.
Yeah, I didn't notice that. That's so interesting. I guess if I would watch it a third time, I could have done it, but
Oh yeah. Yeah, the third time I watched, I was like, okay, I'm going to look for these cool things that I know are there. Because you could even see that in something like One Piece. You know, there's a reason why certain characters wear certain things.
Well, Liz, I want to thank you so much for joining me on this episode. Again, always a pleasure. For those who want to find you and keep up with what you're doing, where can they find you? You
can find me on Instagram and on YouTube at EN Chaffin. That's my username on both of those, without the little periods. And I also have a website where you can sign up for my newsletter, enchaffin.com. And yeah, I hope you visit.
And we will have the links to Liz's socials and her website down in the description below. As mentioned, Josie, the Tiger and the Fish is available for streaming both sub and dub on Crunchyroll. And if you are interested in hearing the extended version of this podcast, you can hop over to your favorite podcast app. You can go on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you find podcasts. As always, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to smash that like button, subscribe if you're not already, and make sure to ring the bell for notifications so that you are notified every time I upload a new video. And I will see you on the next one.